Assalamualaikum dear viewers. Today I am going to discuss about what is a good book. The good book of the art, then I do not speak of the bad ones, is simply the useful or pleasant talk of some person whom you can't otherwise converse with. These bright accounts of travels, present talk would be these bright accounts of travels, good humor and witty discussions of questions, lively or pathetic storytelling in the form of novel, film fact telling by the real agents in the form of novel, film fact telling by the real agents concerned in the events of passing history. All these books of the present age, we ought to be entirely thankful for them and entirely ashamed of ourselves if we make no good use of them, but we make the worst possible use if we allow them to the place of true books. For strictly speaking, they are not books at all, but merely letters or newspapers in good print. Our friend's letter may be delightful, of necessity today, whether worth keeping or not is to be considered. The newspaper may be the newspaper may be entirely proper at breakfast time, but assuredly it is not reading proper at breakfast time. In the real sense, to be read, a book is essentially not a talk thing but a written thing, and written not with the view of more communication but of permanence. The book of talk is printed only because its author can't speak the thousand of people at once. If he could, he would. The volume is mere multiplication of his voice. You can't talk to your friend in India. If you could, you would. You would try it instead. That is mere conveyance of voice. But a book is written not to multiply the voice merely, not to carry it merely, but to preserve it, true and useful, or helpfully beautifully. So far as he knows, no one has yet said it. So far as he knows, no one else can say it. He is born to say it clearly and melodiously, if we may. Perhaps you think no books were ever so written, but again I ask you, do you at all believe in honestly or benevolence in wise people? None of us, I hope, are so unhappy as to think that, well, whatever bit of a wise man work is honestly and benevolently done, that bit is his book or his piece of art. It is mixed always with ever fragments ill done. The place you desire and the place you fit yourself for. I must also say, because observe this quote of the past differs from all living aristocracy in this. It is open to labor and to merit, but to nothing else. No wealth will bribe, no name will overrave, no artifice will deceive the guardian of those Elysian gates. In the deep sense, no vile or vulgar person even enters there. And the properties of that silent fabric as German. There is the but brief question: do you deserve to enter? Pass? Do you ask to be the companion of nobles? Do you long for the conversation of the wise? Learn to understand it, and you should hear it. But no other terms, but no other terms, no, if you will not rise to us, we can't stop to you. The living Lord may assume courtesy. The living philosopher explains his thought to you with considerable pain. But here we neither feign nor interpret. You must rise to the level of thoughts if you would be gladdened by them and share our feelings if you would recognize our presence. Very ready. We are to say of a book. How good this is, that's exactly what I think, but the right feeling is how strange that is. I never thought of that before, and yet I see it is true. Or if I do not follow, I hope I shall someday, but whether thus submissively or not. At least be sure that you go to the author to get at his meaning, not to find your judge it afterwards if you think yourself qualified to do so. And be sure also, if the author is worth anything, that you will get at his meaning all at once. And it is just the same with men's but wisdom. When you come to a good book, you must ask yourself, am I inclined to work as an Australian miner would, or my shovels in good orders, and am I in good trim myself? And therefore, first of all, I tell you earnestly and authoritatively, you must get into the habit of looking intensely at words and assuring yourself of their meaning, syllable by syllable, letter by letter, for though it is only by reason of the oppositions of letters in the function of signs, sounds in the function of signs, that the study of books is called literature, and that a man words in it called by the consent of nations of men of letters instead of men of books or of words. You may yet connect with that accidental this real principle that you might read all books in the British museums if you could live long enough time and in any country, but an uneducated person may know by memory any number of languages and talk them all, and yet really not know a word of any question, not a word even of his own. An ordinary, clever, and sensible seaman will be able to make his way ashore at most ports. Yet he was only to speak a sentence of any language to be known for an illiterate person. So also the accent or turn of expressions of a single sentence will at once mark a scholar. And this so strongly felt, so conclusively admitted but educated persons that a false accent or a mistaken syllable is no in the parliament of any civilized nation. Some of author belong to a good book. John Ruskin. John Ruskin was a powerful and influential critic of the 19th century. He wrote on a variety of subjects: nature, art, architecture, politics, history. All his works is characterized by a clarity of vision. His first volume he published his first volume, Modern Painters, appeared in 1843. It defended modernism in the arts. Among the works of social criticism are unto this last 1862 and Sesame and Lily's 1871, from which this exact tract has been taken.